Emerging from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, climbing up to 14,000 feet through the clouds, the Big Island of Hawaii has been evolving over 300,000 years. This island transforms from its core. From there flows an unrelenting energy and spirit. Every October, this place hosts an event that is a reflection of the setting. Welcome back.
There's nothing more challenging than coming to Kona.
And there's no other race like this in the world.
A 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a 26.2-mile run.
It's the ultimate test of human endurance.
You have to really look after yourself, otherwise it can go quite wrong.
How epic it is, how tough it is, how grueling it is. Greats of the sport crumble on this island.
It just breaks you mentally.
You have to be a killer within to get the best out of yourself.
There's no outside factor, whether it be money or fame, that's going to give you enough to win this race. It has to come from within.
Those who seek out this challenge are defined by a spirit and passion that they hope is unbreakable. This is where they test it. This is the 2016 Ironman World Championship.
All right. Thanks for the warm welcome, guys. And thanks for being here. So excited. As a triathlete myself, I am honored to be up here with you guys, and I actually was also at the race this year, saw all of you finish, saw all of you race, so it's a very big pleasure for me. Last night, you got to see the sneak peek of what we'll get to watch on Saturday. What's that like watching it back now that you've had a little time, a little distance from the actual race? And what stood out to you the most as like your favorite part, whether it was something about your race or just something that was in the broadcast?
I guess I'll take it since I'm closest to you. I think for me, when I watch it back, it's kind of cringeworthy. I don't like hearing myself talk, and so when you're seeing yourself on the big screen, it's kind of a little bit embarrassing for me. But yeah, they did a great job. They always do such a fantastic job putting that show together and showcasing the athletes. I love to hear more about the special interest stories like Turia's and her background and what made her decide to come and race the Ironman and take on this challenge. And obviously also the pro race is always dynamic and exciting to watch, because obviously I'm in the women's race, and my husband's in the men's race, and it's good to see the men's race unfold as well.
It's like you're there. You know, your stomach drops, you get the butterflies going in your stomach, and you get really nervous in your head. It's like almost like a form of PTSD, like you just get right back in that moment, you know? So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, for me, it's crazy. I think usually a lot of athletes will take their break after Kona. It's like the biggest event of the year, really. And so after that, you kind of come down from it. And for me personally, I've been on kind of my off season right now, and I'm getting to that point where I'm going to start getting going again for next year. So I think it coming out this time every year almost amps you up again to get going. You just watch it and brings you back to that day. And now I'm just even more excited for next year.
I think for me, it made me really nostalgic, which probably sounds a bit weird because it was only a month ago, but made me realise like I miss that element of competing in a race, and you know, I was actually really proud of myself too. I can't believe I actually did it. Like it's crazy.
Obviously, and we saw it in the clip a little bit, this sport is such a mental sport, you know, beyond just the actual physical piece of it that seems so, you know, awe-inspiring for so many people. The mental piece of it is so huge. What do you think for each of you has contributed the most to developing that mental toughness that you have to have as an Ironman athlete? And how do you keep that going when maybe the race isn't going well or a workout isn't going well? What's the biggest factor for you?
I think for me, it's always about having a vision of what you want to achieve in life and certainly in the sport for us. And I've always had a clear vision of running down that finish line in the lead in Hawaii on the biggest stage in our sport. And having that vision and that goal drives you through so many of those hard sessions and lifts you up, gets you out of bed in the morning. But when it comes to in a race, when you're in that dark period, when you're everything's telling you to stop, for me, I just start thinking about, well, if I stop now, I'll never forgive myself. If I go through this pain now, and cross that finish line, I can be proud of myself. If I give up, I cross that finish line, I'm going to be disappointed in myself for months. And so it's better to just push through, get through the pain and know it's temporary. And, getting across that finish line and being proud of yourself, that's something you can take home, yeah.
I think for me, it comes from my family. I was the youngest of 4. I was always the slowest. Nothing ever came easy to me. But my family, we never threw any punches. If we're playing basketball or football, no one's going easy on the little, the young one. And I think that just really made me tough, and it made me enjoy the challenge in life. And I think that's what drove me to triathlon, especially Ironman, which is really, it's a true test of yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I saw that as, another challenge that I wanted to take on.
Yeah, similar for me. I've just been competitive my whole life. I was actually the oldest, not the youngest, but I was still with my younger siblings, just like always had to win. And so I grew up in team sports, and I think that kind of helped develop me. And coming into an individual sport, now it's all been about me and myself and how I can improve each day. And again, just that competitive, I can always be better. So every day, striving to find that next step.
Heather, if your family was like my family, there's probably a lot of really competitive Monopoly going on.
Everything. First to the table, first up in the morning.
I feel like a reporter with this microphone. I think when you set a really big goal, you have to be really clear on why you want that goal. And so for me, doing Ironman, I wanted to do it because I wanted to prove that I was fitter than I was in the ultramarathon when I was catastrophically injured. So whenever things got tough during the race and during training, I just kept coming back to that reason for why I wanted to do it. And that really helped me get across the finish line.
We'll jump right into a question to you because it segues perfectly. Obviously, to go through something like you went through and to come out of it with such a resolve of, I'm going to take on Ironman, what was that process like for you? Was it an easy flip, to say, I want to go do this and, I'm going to do it? And also, what would your advice be to somebody, that's having a setback of any kind and feeling like I'm not going to be able to go do the big things that I might have dreamt of doing once?
Yeah, so I think when I was in hospital, I got told that I would never run again. And hearing that, being an ultramarathon runner, I loved running, I loved exercise, I loved being active. So hearing those words were really crushing for me. But when I heard those words, I just thought instantly, I'm going to show you I'll do an Ironman one day. Now at the time, I had no idea what an Ironman was. I just knew, to be an Ironman athlete, you had to be really fit. And so for some reason, I picked Ironman, and that's what drove me through my rehabilitation process. So every morning when I'd train, or train in hospital, my friends and my family would say, you've got to do this if you want to get to Ironman. And I think having that belief from other people, as important as it is to have self-belief, you really need belief from people around you as well. The next question was, I forgot, sorry,
What
mate.
would be your advice? There's a lot of people that go through different setbacks in their life and then feel like, oh, well, now I'm injured or now I have this and I'll never be able to do that big thing that I might have dreamt of doing. What would be your advice to them?
I would just say go for it. You never know until you have a crack. And I really believe that anything's possible when you put in the work and the time and the dedication to it, for sure.
Awesome. Heather, your face coming down the finisher chute in Kona was priceless. She was just beaming and just so ecstatic. And, when you were on, the podium with the other ladies, what was kind of going through your mind those last, couple miles and definitely in the finisher chute, and how significant of that was that moment for you to be, one of the first American females to podium in a number of years, and just for you personally, what did that moment kind of mean to you?
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm still just, Ironman is such a tough sport, a tough day out there, and it's the World Championships in Kona, so it's so easy to be, I ended up 3rd this year, or I could have been 10th, just within a matter of seconds. You cramp up or you're walking, and anything can happen on the day. And so for me, Rini, world champion, and Daniela, who took the title this year, they're 2 of the best in the sport, and I could have, like I just said, been on the podium with these 2 girls who I strongly admire and look up to, and or I couldn't have been. And so for me, it was a dream come true. I mean, I could have, yeah. And so this year, I mean, I was so ecstatic with the result. And part of it too, I was able to get 5th the year before. And I think you always put pressure on yourself to improve. And you either want to show that that wasn't a fluke. And I was going into the race like, okay, I want to get 5th again, or maybe improve on that, a 4th. And I thought maybe a podium was possible, but it wasn't. It was more aiming for what I had done the year prior. And so I had exceeded kind of what I had thought going into the race. So for me, it was just everything was, yeah, a dream come true on that day.
Awesome. Rini, tying off of that, watching you come through the finisher chute was tough, and you could just tell there were so many emotions. On the one hand, you were high-fiving people, and you could tell you were so grateful, but obviously it wasn't the result that you wanted. How do you manage that as you're going through the race? Because also during the run, you're demolishing people. I mean, you're coming back from the run and just taking down person after person after person. You watched her run, you're just like, oh my, like she's pulling, I think they even tweeted, she's pulling a Rini and just like dominating. So obviously you kept a really headstrong race the entire time, but what did that kind of feel like towards the very end when you kind of knew what, you know, the finish was? What were the emotions that were going through your mind?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you have to be grateful that you're able to do this sport. It's a privilege to be able to race at the highest level and get to do that every year. But yeah, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed. I had a goal in mind and what I thought I was capable of on that day, and some things didn't go so great on the bike for me. I had some issues, and that kind of meant that my perfect race was out the window. So it was about getting the best out of myself with what I had on the day, and that's what I always try to do every race, just do the best with what you have on the day. I mean, obviously, everybody's striving for something better. I'm sure Heather can do better than what she did this year, but again, you could have done worse. And so getting off the bike so far down from Daniela was disappointing, but you know, I was going to make the best of whatever situation and try and pick off as many girls as possible, as I like to do on that run. And that's fun. So yeah, I mean, really excited to have finished second, another podium for me in Kona, and yeah, I mean, I've had a dream run in Kona. There's nothing that I can complain about, so really grateful and happy that I'm able to continue to do this sport.
Yeah. Tim, speaking of Rini saying, you know, things can go wrong, and on that day, you know, a number of things can. One of the things that I always hear you guys talking about is how nutrition is really kind of that fourth pillar of the sport, and I think it's something that age groupers struggle with. And as pros, how critical is that? And are there things that you're still trying to figure out, you know, that age groupers probably assume you guys all have nailed down? And what's been kind of the biggest takeaway that you've learned kind of being in the sport for so long with nutrition?
Yeah, it's always a work in progress. I think I've gone far in the sport and I still haven't figured it out completely, and it can vary from day to day. But the most important thing is you really have to be, you know, constantly checking in on yourself and seeing how you're doing and reevaluating. And I think that's what Ironman racing is about. It's about problem solving. And I think, you know, being able to know your body and read your body in the race situation and try to fuel accordingly, or you know, sometimes, you know, you'll lose your gel or you'll lose a water bottle and okay, all right, you know, that's gone. All right, let's reevaluate the situation, and now what do I do? So I think the most important thing is not freaking out when things happen, because it's a long day, you know, and stuff happens out there. But being able to take a step back, reevaluate, and say, okay, this is my new plan.
Awesome. We have to ask a question about the power couple. I think there's a lot of people out there that train, maybe their spouse also is training for something, maybe not Ironman, but what's your advice to how to keep a healthy relationship while two, you know, partners are training for things? Because I could see how it could get quickly tense or competitive or whatever. How do you kind of be supportive but also let each person be individually doing what they need to do?
I think we try not to take ourselves too seriously. I mean, obviously we're both very competitive in ourselves and with each other. But yeah, we try to have fun with it. And we are a true team. I want the best for him on race day, and I want to see him win the race, even regardless of my situation. And you know, it's mutual. So that definitely helps. I don't know if you have something to add.
Yeah, and I think we each have different outlets as well. You know, we have our unique teams around us, whether it be managers or coaches, and we keep a little bit of that separate. And I think that gives us sounding boards away from our relationship within the sport that can really help balance everything out.
So
and
not
then,
always trying to make the like the other person have to be your sounding board.
Right, right, yeah. Like, Rinny's coach, Siri, it's great for her to be able to have their relationship, and, mine with Mark Allen. I think that just gives us something personal in the sport beyond our relationship. And then, hopefully Rinny doesn't run faster than me. That always helps relationship.
Obviously, it's such an emotional thing, and like you were saying, you watch it back and you're very nostalgic. And when you're watching it back, how much of that, how do you reset goals based on these kind of races? And whether it was a really amazing race or whether, it wasn't the race that you ideally wanted, how do you kind of step back, reset, and where do you go from there as, somebody that's so competitive in this sport?
I always think after you achieve a really big goal, it's important just to have some downtime, which I guess that's what you were saying, Heather. And I think we can get trapped in this cycle of achieving a goal and then setting another one and achieving it. And we never really take the time to reflect on our success, think about how proud of ourselves we are, and just kind of relax. So that's what I'm doing, but I'm not a professional athlete or triathlete, so this is what you guys do for a job. It might be different.
No, it's exactly what you said. I mean, just taking that downtime after, reflecting on it all, and then, watching it back the other day, last night, just like, I think it just brings out those little things you are talking about that you can do better. So again, I need to improve my swim. If I was only just a few minutes quicker in that, and maybe a few on the butt, it just kind of draws up all those goals you have for this upcoming season and kind of gets you motivated to go for those.
Yeah, I think take 24 hours and don't think about it. Just let it sink in, and then write everything down. Write all your thoughts down. And Rinny and I are sitting on the beach after Kona, and we gave ourselves that day, have a fruity drink on the beach, and then get writing, and then let's start planning next year.
Yeah, as Timothy said, we definitely try to give ourselves that break right after the race, because there's so many emotions finishing that race. You're happy, you're sad, you have a great race, you're on a high, but then for some reason you're depressed, and then you have a terrible race, and of course you cross the finish line depressed. So you give yourself 24 to 48 hours just to feel disappointed or feel whatever you're going to feel, and then, okay, it's a new day. Let's figure out exactly what went wrong systematically throughout the race, what I did wrong, because it's still fresh in your mind. So I like to put it all down on paper and then put it away. And then, we've had probably 6 weeks now where we've been enjoying and watching the coverage last night definitely brings all of those emotions back a little bit, but I think you need to separate yourself from the race and those emotions, have some downtime, as Turia and Heather said, and just enjoy, and then, we're all competitive. You get back into it when you're starting your build-up again.
What has been something that, whether it's maybe in the past year or this past training cycle, has been a really helpful switch for you in terms of getting better workouts, whether it's something you've done with recovery or something that you've done inside your workouts? Is there just a small little takeaway that you've noticed has really made a big difference in one aspect of your training?
I think as an age grouper, as someone who works and kind of has a life that's a bit more normal than you guys. I'm not saying that you're not normal at all. I think it's important to recognise that, some days you can't do it all, and you can't be too hard on yourself either, because like you said last night, Tim, being stressed and putting pressure on yourself, I think that works against you. So you have to be kind of realistic, and if you can't do your whole session one day, that's okay. It's not really the end of the world.
Yeah, I would say probably similar to me. Just this year racing, I kind of felt like I had a more not relaxed approach with my training sessions, but it was okay if I didn't hit certain numbers or hit certain workouts exactly. And it used to be the end of the world for me, and I feel like I've been in the sport now. I'm getting to that, been in it 5 or 6 years now, where it's like you realize it's not the end of the world. And my coach, Joe Gambles, he's a fellow athlete as well. So I think it's helped when I see him as also a professional. Like, he doesn't necessarily hit every single day, and it gives you kind of that, like, okay, it's not the end of the world. And I used to just, like, go home to my husband, like, oh, like crying, and so just kind of maturing, I think, and learning my time in the sport of, okay, like move on, next day, hit the next one.
And I think you have to remember that everything you've done in the past, training-wise and racing-wise, it's like a bank account. It's all been in there, gaining interest for you. So you have to keep that in mind when you want to take the world by storm and, train the house down and try to do great things. You just have to, pump the brakes a little bit and don't be afraid to rest. And, Mark and I really focused this year on maybe not doing as many of those really big key sessions, making sure we do them, but not overdoing them. And I think that really helped me get the best out of myself on race day.
I think it's important to really just be honest with yourself. And if on any given session you've given your very best, and it wasn't the goal, then that's okay. You have to be happy that you've given your all in that session and just wasn't there that day. That doesn't mean it's not going to be there on race day. Mm-hmm. And all these little sessions, they definitely add up to race day. And some days you hit them, some days you don't. But as Heather said, you can't really be emotional throughout the year. Otherwise, you get to the race and you're a wreck, you're exhausted. So, I think it's important to kind of roll with the punches and just be honest. If you're tired, tell your coach you're tired. Talk to your coach and make sure they know, because you have a rest day now, you're going to be able to train the house down for, longer, 10 more days, just for one day off.
And I think that's such a great piece of advice, especially for people that are training for anything, whether it's a half marathon or a marathon. I think as age group athletes, I can attest to, you get a plan and you want to stick to that plan, and you assume that, the pro athletes that are great at this, they're always hitting their plan. So it's really helpful to hear that, the best thing that you can sometimes do is relax and kind of give yourself a break when you need it. In terms of the mental game, I don't know if you all know this, but you can't listen to music. You can't do, you can't have headphones on during this race. You can't. How do you pass the time, especially when you're in kind of those tougher moments, whether it's, a rough part of the race or just, you're feeling like this is really lasting a very long time? What do you do? Do you have a conversation with yourself? Do you have a mantra? Do you sing a song? What do you do to kind of get out of a negative headspace when you're training or in a race?
I think for me, I'm not really, if I'm having a great race, then the time passes by really fast. So that's the headspace I want to get into at the beginning of the race. It's just, and that really means focusing on every single moment in that moment and not getting ahead of yourself. It's when you start thinking about, I've got 112 miles bike ride after this swim, that's when it feels like this is going to be a long day. And so trying to bring yourself back into the moment that you're in at that very second helps the time pass. And I don't have any tricks or any special mantras. It's more just relax and focus on what I'm doing, technique, breathing. Am I doing everything I possibly can do right now to get to that finish line?
For me, a big part of it is preparing yourself for encountering that on race day and training. So I'll do a lot of my really long rides by myself. I'll go out for a 7-hour ride by myself. I won't speak to anybody all day. And I'll turn my earbuds off on the back half and just put myself in that situation where you can't hide in the music. You can't get in a rhythm to your favorite band or whatever it is. And I think for me, that's really helped on race day. And like Rinny said, if you have to focus on the small details. If you look at that race in entirety, it's overwhelming. Between 8 hours and 17 hours of racing, that's a lot to digest when you're hurting and things aren't going well. So if you can focus on the little details that keep you in the moment, you're going to find that you're moving along much better.
Yeah, I would just agree with both of them on that. Just break it down. If you're going through a rough patch, usually it might happen on the bike. It's such a long bike ride out there. It's like, okay, just get to the next aid station or get to the next, if you can just think of a landmark or a point that you know of, or for instance, we were out there a couple weeks early, and so I knew certain sections of the course, and it's like, okay, you know that the airport's coming, or different parts are coming, so just if you can break it up in your head and get to that next one and then reevaluate, or try to break it down from 112 miles to just the next couple and stay in the moment at that time.
Yeah, I did pretty much the same thing. I just took it aid station by aid station on the bike and on the run. And in the swim, I just did it buoy. Is that how you say it? Buoy? Sounds so weird. But I just said it buoy to buoy.
Okay.
So that's what I did. And I also, whenever I had a negative thought, like, man, this bike ride is hectic, the wind's so bad, I hate this, I would just try to reframe it. So I'd say, yeah, the wind is really hard, but every single other competitor out here has had to go through it, and, you know, you're the best at running, and running's the last, so you've got that to look forward to. So I just tried to do that as well throughout the day.
Awesome. What is kind of do you have a go-to, kind of going back to the nutrition question, are you a stickler about eating very specific things during your races and before races? And if so, can you kind of walk through what some of your special things are?
I don't really think I nailed nutrition. I had no idea what I was doing. And my coach told me I had to eat 400 grams of carbs a day. Is that how many you guys eat?
During the race or before the race?
Before.
I don't know what the number is, but I try to get my carbs in liquids. So instead of eating so much, because you feel full.
It I couldn't eat it.
Yeah, no.
I was just eating banana after banana, thinking this is the hardest part of this training. Yeah. So I wasn't good at nutrition. I think I could have definitely done that a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me I've had the support of Herbalife for 4 years now, and they've helped me kind of dial in exactly what I need on race day, but it's something that I then practice every single day in training. So on race day, it's just another day. So I have what I need dialed in out there, and I just, on the nutrition side of it, in the week leading up, pretty basic. I'm not too strict with diet, a lot of sweet potatoes, bananas, grilled chicken, but yeah, I do load up a little bit more, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I'm that guy that has a gluten issue, so I have to eat gluten free. We live in Boulder, so it's pretty easy. But yeah, I'll load up on like a loaf of Udi's bread the day before, or bag of bagels or whatever it is, and I don't try to. We eat a lot. I mean, when we're training and we're out there doing 3 sessions a day, there's a lot of calories coming in. And for us, carbo loading is more of transitioning some of those fat and protein calories to more carbohydrate. So the percentage of your intake when you start tapering and not training just goes higher carbs. So you're not overdoing it before race day. And I've done that plenty of times too.
I've been working with a nutritionist in Australia, Turia. I'll introduce you to him. His name's Greg Cox. He's a great nutritionist. Working with him for about 10 years. And we made a nutrition plan that long ago, and we've tweaked it a little bit over the years, but yeah, 48 hours before I start to carbo load, which really means I'm not really eating more food. My portion sizes are very similar, but I'm getting them in, like with Carbo Pro, in a sports drink. So I'm getting those calories in liquid form, and so I feel like I feel less bloated. If I ever start to feel bloated before a race, I eat less, because I think that's the worst thing you can do leading into a race. So I try not to.
For next time.
Try not to overeat before the race, and then on race day, I have a lot of goo products, Roctane gels and Roctane drink and so forth. But I don't eat any solids during the race because I find it hard to chew and breathe at the same time. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty simple. Rice and chicken for dinner, and simpler carbs, no fiber 48 hours before the race, because you don't want to have those emergency Portaloo stops. So, low on the salad, low on the fibers pre-race.
Do we have questions from the audience?
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I was wondering, do you all have any role models that you look up to, whether it be an athlete or just someone you know in everyday life?
Well, I think these guys are all pretty cool, and I find them really inspiring. But I also find a lot of different people inspiring. But when I was recovering in hospital, I read this bloke's book, Sam Bailey, and I found his story really motivating, because he was a farmer. He was in a car crash. He became a quadriplegic, but now he's a farmer. He flies helicopters, and that to me was testament that you could rebuild your life and make it even better than it was before.
I see someone like Turia, and I'm like, can't imagine going through what she has gone through, and see her now I think you are an inspiration for all of us. But just athletes that, have been through either an accident, a situation, or don't have the same sort of ability to just get up and train day in and day out. And I mean, my life is pretty easy. I get up, I eat, I train, I do this as a profession, and I feel so grateful to have that opportunity. And there's so many people out there that would give anything to have that as well. And so the people that work the 80-hour weeks and are still out here doing Ironman or have other things going on in their lives, and they're pushing through and doing it just as well, and I think that's even more motivating.
I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go someone that inspired me when I was a kid, and it's Larry Bird. I love that guy. I love watching him play. I love this hustle. I know we got some Lakers fans in here, but man, his hustle on the court, and that really resonated with me because he never seemed like he was, the most talented guy out there, but he was just tenacious, and he was trash talking, and he was working really hard. And at the end of the day, he was still going home and helping his mom out on her farm and just being a normal guy. So that's my guy, number 33.
Yeah, I think for us professionals, it's very easy to forget how great we have it, and so it's always nice to meet people like Turia and just the A-trippers that like Jen, who has a job, works hard, lives in New York City, and trained for the Ironman and got up there and got it done. Those are the inspirational stories that I take inspiration from. But my hero is Michael Jordan. Although I think Shaquille O'Neal's coming in a little later, so...
Maybe say Shaquille O'Neal.
So Shaquille is also a favorite.
Is there another question?
Hi, guys. Thanks for being here. So my question for you is, what are some of your pre-race rituals, either for the Ironman or any other kind of athletic competition?
I don't have any, yeah.
I don't have anything set really for Ironman. You kind of you taper, and especially the last kind of 48 hours. So you're kind of just sitting there trying to just what I call cage the beast. You're just like literally trying to use zero energy and save it all for race day. So you're just pent up and want to go race. And so no real rituals. I just watch a lot of Sex and the City episodes, a lot of bad TV, just trying to just not think about the race and lose too much energy, like just thinking about it, like everything that could go wrong, just zone out until it's race morning.
Yeah, I'd agree with Heather. It's all about storing up all that energy race week because you're gonna need every little ounce of that. So a lot of bad like comedy movies, anything with Adam Sandler in it, I'm probably gonna watch before a race. and then race morning is zone out. Music on, Foo Fighters or whatever it is. Just getting ready for that internal battle.
I don't have anything crazy either, but I think it's really important to have a schedule that you stick to, race week, every race week, if you can. Certain foods that you can try to eat, depends where you are around the world, but for me, rice and chicken is something that I eat, but even like down to like the run-throughs I do before the race, I try to do a similar, probably from like the Monday before a race, similar training. So you're just in that, you're relaxed because you've done it before, you've been there before, you know what it feels like, and you're doing everything possible to get to that start line in great condition.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. And I know that I'm very excited to watch on Saturday. I'm sure everybody else is as well. But thank you for being such inspirations and for coming here and giving us so much great knowledge and insight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.